starts playing again, one that reminds him of who he truly is beneath the noise of life and ego. He feels both exposed and whole, fragile yet powerful. This connection is not about completing each other. It is about recognizing oneself in the other. He feels a sense of familiarity, not because of shared experiences, but because something about this bond echoes the unseen parts of his being. Such love invites him into a process of self-realization. He begins to notice the subtle dance between his inner world and outer existence. The emotions that arise are not random. They carry meaning. They symbolize the dialogue between his conscious mind and the deeper forces guiding him. When he loves genuinely, he does not lose himself in the other person, as many do when driven by desire or fear of loneliness. Instead, he finds a more honest version of himself through this union. The connection becomes a sacred mirror reflecting both his light and his shadow. Every affection, every conflict, every moment of peace becomes a lesson in self-awareness. He learns that real love is not about escaping reality, but integrating the truth of who he is with the presence of another. In authentic love, he is not compelled by superficial attraction or idealized fantasy. His affection flows from a deeper recognition, an understanding that love, at its essence, is an act of truth. This truth does not demand perfection. It embraces wholeness. It accepts that love is both gentle and fierce, both healing and revealing. He realizes that loving someone truly means standing unguarded before them, allowing his heart to be seen without masks or manipulation. In that vulnerability, he discovers strength, because love that emerges from authenticity cannot be broken by fear or pride. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is born from the harmony of two souls, acknowledging each other beyond appearances. As he grows in this experience, he becomes more conscious of how this love changes him. His inner world feels aligned with something greater than himself. He no longer seeks validation through conquest or approval. He seeks connection through truth. The woman he loves becomes a reflection of his own growth, his own becoming. He does not love her to escape loneliness, but because her presence resonates with his deepest longing for unity, balance, and meaning. In her, he sees the manifestation of his inner harmony, the living symbol of what his soul yearns to express. This is why when a man feels authentic love, his demeanor softens, his focus deepens, and his actions become grounded. He is no longer restless, because the search for external fulfillment transforms into a journey of inner realization. True love becomes a spiritual alignment, not a possession. It teaches him that to love authentically is to embrace life as it is, without distortion. It draws him closer to truth, demanding that he be both humble and courageous. Through love, he learns that the most profound connection he can have with another begins within himself. This is the union of his inner and outer worlds, a balance between emotion and awareness, passion and peace. Love, in its purest form, becomes not a desire to own, but a call to awaken. When a man feels authentic love, he begins to understand that true strength is not measured by how well he hides his emotions, but by how honestly he allows himself to feel them. Vulnerability becomes the bridge between his heart and his soul, between the person he shows the world and the person he truly is inside. In a society that often teaches men to suppress their feelings, to stand tall and unshaken no matter the storm, genuine love gently dismantles that armor. It invites him to lower his defenses, to expose the parts of himself he once kept buried, and to trust that he will not be judged for doing so. This process is both terrifying and liberating. It demands that he let go of control, that he release the illusion of invulnerability, and that he confront his fears of rejection, inadequacy, and loss. Yet, in doing so, he discovers a deeper kind of courage, the courage to be real. When he opens his heart, he begins to reveal the layers of his humanity that he once hid behind silence or pride. He allows his partner to see his uncertainties, his insecurities, his unspoken pain. This openness becomes a sacred offering, a declaration that he trusts her enough to show his unguarded self. In those moments, his words carry a rare sincerity, not crafted to impress, but to connect. He admits when he is afraid, he confesses when he is hurt, and he expresses gratitude when he feels seen. There is a quiet power in this honesty, a power that is far greater than dominance or control. For the first time, he realizes that being vulnerable does not make him weak. It makes him human, and that humanity is the foundation of all real love. Through vulnerability, his understanding of intimacy transforms. He no longer views closeness as a risk, but as a sanctuary. The walls he once built to protect himself begin to dissolve, not because love makes him blind, but because it makes him brave. He starts to find beauty in emotional exposure. He listens with empathy instead of defensiveness. He speaks with presence instead of performance. And he feels with awareness instead of fear. His emotional world becomes more expansive, more honest, and more alive. In that state, his partner no longer feels like a threat to his independence, but like a companion in his emotional evolution. The more he allows himself to be open, the deeper the connection grows, because love thrives where truth is spoken without fear. This transformation is not without struggle. There are moments when his instinct to withdraw resurfaces, when he feels the urge to protect himself from the discomfort of honesty. But each time he chooses to stay open, he grows stronger. The act of being emotionally transparent becomes a quiet rebellion against the false ideals of masculinity that once imprisoned him. He learns that vulnerability is not the surrender of power, it is the surrender of pretense. It is the point where love becomes sacred, where two souls can meet without the interference of ego or fear. As he embraces this depth, love no longer feels like a battlefield of dominance or pride. It becomes a space of mutual healing. Through his vulnerability, he invites his partner to be vulnerable too, creating a bond built on truth rather than illusion. He begins to understand that real intimacy is not born from perfection, but from shared authenticity. When a man feels authentic love, his greatest strength lies not in how much he can endure alone, but in how deeply he can connect while remaining true to himself. His heart becomes both exposed and protected by the purity of his intentions, and in that balance, he discovers the profound peace that only real love can bring. When a man feels authentic love, his idea of connection shifts from possession to expansion. He no longer desires to own or control the one he loves. Instead, he desires to grow beside her. Love becomes an experience of mutual awakening rather than a conquest or validation. It is not about holding someone tightly in fear of losing them. It is about giving them the freedom to exist fully while still choosing to stay. In this kind of love, his affection is not driven by insecurity or dominance, but by admiration and respect. He cherishes her individuality as something sacred, understanding that her independence is not a threat to his masculinity, but a reflection of her strength. He wants to explore her world, not limit it. His heart expands as he realizes that true love does not demand ownership. It invites evolution. When he loves authentically, he sees the relationship as a space for both souls to evolve. He does not wish to mold her into his ideal image because he has learned to love without expectation. Every moment shared becomes an opportunity to learn, to deepen understanding, and to elevate consciousness. His love transforms from attachment into awareness. He begins to appreciate the subtleties of connection, the silent gestures, the honest conversations, the way growth sometimes requires space instead of constant closeness. He values balance, knowing that love thrives not in control, but in harmony. Through her, he learns the art of patience, realizing that love must breathe to stay alive. Such a man does not confuse possession with protection. He does not see her freedom as a threat, but as a continuation of love's beauty. His desire is not to bind her, but to walk beside her as an equal, allowing both their spirits to unfold naturally. When she succeeds, he feels joy rather than insecurity. When she changes, he seeks to understand rather than resist. His love is not conditional upon her meeting his expectations. It flourishes in the authenticity of her being. He recognizes that love is not a cage for the other's soul, but a mirror reflecting one's own depth. By supporting her independence, he honors his own integrity, for authentic love is rooted in mutual respect. This form of love also transforms his perception of himself. He begins to see that genuine connection requires emotional maturity and self-awareness. The more he grows internally, the more capable he becomes of giving without fear and receiving without guilt. He learns that love is not about filling emptiness, but sharing abundance. His affection flows naturally because it is not tainted by ego or need for control. He finds satisfaction in seeing her shine, knowing that her light does not diminish his own. The relationship becomes a dance of two individuals who choose each other not out of dependency, but out of conscious alignment. In this space of emotional expansion, love becomes a force of elevation. Both partners inspire one another to rise above limitation, fear, and self-doubt. They become each other's mirror, reflecting both the beauty and the lessons of the soul. He understands that love is not about having the upper hand. It is about holding hands while walking through life's uncertainties. His care becomes gentle yet strong. His passion becomes steady rather than consuming, and his loyalty is expressed through freedom, not restriction. This is the kind of love that transforms not only relationships but the very essence of who a man is. He learns that the purpose of love is not to own someone else's heart, but to expand his own. Through her presence, he awakens to the realization that real love is not about possession. It is about growth, balance, and the shared evolution of two souls walking side by side in truth. When a man feels authentic love, there is a silent recognition that goes beyond physical attraction, beyond logic, and beyond time. It is as if his soul remembers something that his mind cannot explain. When he looks into the eyes of the woman he loves, there is a moment of stillness, a deep, almost sacred awareness that he has met someone who mirrors the essence of his being. This recognition does not come from reasoning or analysis. It arises from an inner knowing, an intuitive sense that this connection is not ordinary. He feels peace in her presence, a calm that speaks louder than words. It is not the excitement of infatuation, not the chaos of desire, but a quiet sense of belonging, as though his heart has finally found a place where it can rest without pretending. In that stillness, he senses familiarity, as if the two have known each other beyond the boundaries of memory, as if their souls have crossed paths in another form or time. This recognition is not something he can explain to others. It is not about appearance, status, or logic. It is a spiritual alignment that he feels deep within. He does not need constant validation or proof because the connection itself feels self-evident. There is an invisible thread binding their energies together, a magnetic pull that draws him closer, not out of need, but resonance. He feels that she understands him even in silence, that her presence alone brings clarity to his thoughts and direction to his purpose. When she speaks, her words often echo thoughts he has not yet expressed. When she is silent, her silence feels complete, not empty. It is as though their communication transcends language, operating on the level of energy and intuition. He feels seen, not for what he shows to the world, but for what he truly is beneath the surface. This kind of connection awakens a sense of sacred devotion in him. He becomes more attentive, more mindful, and more emotionally present. He does not need to chase or prove. Instead, he cherishes the bond through consistency and care. It is not about dramatic expressions of affection, but about quiet constancy. The way he listens, the way he protects her peace, the way he shows up without having to be asked. Every gesture becomes an expression of a deeper truth that cannot be easily spoken. When he holds her, it is not just physical, it is spiritual alignment. He feels as though he is holding a reflection of his own soul, something he must nurture, honor, and never take for granted. This recognition also challenges him. True love mirrors both light and shadow, showing him not only what he admires, but also what he needs to confront within himself. Her presence stirs the depths of his being, revealing both his capacity for tenderness and his fear of vulnerability. Yet, he does not run from it because he senses that the purpose of this connection is transformation. Through her, he begins to understand himself more deeply. The relationship becomes a journey of self-awareness and inner growth, guided not by logic but by intuition. When he feels this silent recognition, his love becomes less about possession and more about reverence. He begins to see her as more than a partner. She becomes a reflection of something divine, a mirror that awakens his higher nature. He realizes that real love is not something he finds. It is something he remembers. It feels destined, yet free, intimate, yet infinite. It is a bond where words become unnecessary, because understanding flows naturally between two souls that have finally found their way back to one another. Through this quiet recognition, he experiences love not as a fleeting emotion, but as a timeless connection between spirits that have always known where they belong. When a man feels authentic love, the entire structure of his inner world begins to change. Love becomes a force of transformation that reaches into the deepest layers of his being, reshaping how he perceives life, himself, and the world around him. He begins to see through different eyes, no longer guided solely by logic or desire, but by meaning. The woman he loves awakens in him a gentleness that was once dormant, a compassion that was once guarded, and a strength that is no longer built upon pride, but upon understanding. In her presence, he feels the stirring of something sacred, a realization that love is not merely an emotion, it is an alchemical process that refines the soul. Through love, he confronts himself. The chaos within him, the insecurities he once hid, and the fears he once ignored all rise to the surface. But rather than running from them, he begins to embrace them, realizing that love's purpose is not comfort, it is awakening. In this transformation, he learns that love is not a transaction or a temporary thrill. It is a mirror that reflects his own soul back to him. Every joy and every challenge within the relationship becomes a step toward deeper awareness. When disagreements arise, he no longer seeks to win, but to understand. When pain emerges, he does not close off. He listens to what it reveals about his heart. Love teaches him patience, humility, and acceptance. It softens his ego, reminding him that real connection does not thrive in control, but in surrender. He begins to value emotional honesty over pride, empathy over dominance, and presence over performance. Each moment with her becomes an opportunity to practice being more real, more open, and more conscious. He realizes that love is not about holding someone forever, but about holding the moment with complete sincerity. The transformation extends beyond the relationship. His perception of life itself evolves. The small things begin to carry meaning, the sound of her laughter, the way light filters through a quiet morning, the peace in simply being near her. He starts to see beauty where he once saw routine. Love awakens his sensitivity to life's subtleties, teaching him that the essence of existence is not in grand achievements, but in genuine presence. The world becomes less about competition and more about connection. He becomes aware of how deeply everything is interconnected, how love is not just between two people, but a force that flows through all of creation. This awareness humbles him, grounding him in gratitude and stillness. In loving authentically, he also learns the art of letting go, not as abandonment, but as acceptance. He understands that love cannot be forced or controlled. It must be nurtured with trust and faith. He lets go of the illusion that love should always feel perfect, recognizing that its real power lies in growth through imperfection. The relationship becomes a living space for both souls to evolve, to fall and rise, to hurt and heal, to transform together. He begins to see love not as a possession of the heart, but as a path toward enlightenment. Every moment of love, even the painful ones, becomes a teacher guiding him toward a higher version of himself. Through this transformation, his love matures from emotion into devotion. He becomes calmer, wiser, and more grounded. He no longer fears vulnerability because he has seen that it leads to truth. His affection deepens not through grand gestures, but through consistent presence and quiet loyalty. He understands that real love is not something he gives or receives. It is something he becomes. Through loving her, he becomes more human, more compassionate, and more awake. The man who once sought validation from the world now finds meaning in simply being true. Love has turned him inside out, stripped away illusion, and revealed his essence. And in that transformation, he discovers that to love authentically is to evolve endlessly toward the light of understanding, balance, and inner peace. When a man feels authentic love, he begins to understand the sacred responsibility that comes with it. Love, for him, is no longer an impulse or a fleeting emotion. It becomes a conscious commitment to protect, nurture, and uplift the one he loves without seeking to dominate her. He feels a deep sense of duty, not out of obligation, but out of reverence for the connection he shares. This sense of devotion gives his actions a different weight. His words carry integrity, his presence brings safety, and his loyalty becomes silent but unshakable. When he loves truly, he no longer moves through life carelessly. Every choice he makes considers how it will affect her peace, her growth, and her spirit. He understands that real love is not about the excitement of the beginning, but about the endurance of the soul. It is the quiet decision to stand firm, to show up, to be the steady ground in a world that constantly shifts. This kind of love changes how he views commitment. It is no longer about possession or routine. It becomes a sacred promise he makes with his heart. He understands that love requires effort, understanding, and patience. He learns to show up not only in joy but in discomfort, not only in passion but in silence. He does not disappear when challenges arise because his love is not dependent on convenience. It is rooted in purpose. He is not loyal because he fears loss. He is loyal because he values truth. Through this devotion, he becomes emotionally stable, dependable, and grounded. His actions align with his feelings, and his consistency speaks louder than his words ever could. His love becomes the kind that brings healing, not confusion, peace, not chaos. When he loves authentically, he also learns balance, the delicate art of giving without losing himself. He does not sacrifice his identity for love, nor does he expect his partner to sacrifice hers. He understands that love must exist alongside individuality. He supports her dreams as fiercely as his own, creating a space where both can thrive. His love becomes an ecosystem of mutual growth, not dependency. He realizes that strength in love is not about control, but about stability. The strength to be kind when anger tempts him, to listen when pride wants to argue, and to stay gentle even when the world feels harsh. His love matures from passion to purpose, from desire to depth. This authenticity also reshapes his sense of masculinity. He no longer feels the need to prove his worth through dominance or material success. Instead, he finds meaning in his ability to love deeply, protect sincerely, and act with integrity. His emotional maturity becomes a reflection of his inner evolution. Love becomes the path through which he understands the harmony between strength and softness, reason and emotion, action and stillness. Through this, he becomes not just a lover, but a guide, a partner, and a safe space. A man who feels authentic love does not just say, "I love you." He shows it in silence, in patience, in the way he remains present when life becomes uncertain. His love does not fade with time because it is not built on fantasy. It is rooted in soul. He stands beside her not to lead or follow, but to walk together through life's unfolding. His devotion becomes timeless, a quiet promise to keep choosing her every day, not because he must, but because his heart cannot imagine a truth more real than this. When a man feels authentic love, his entire being transforms into something higher, quieter, and more profound. It is not the kind of love that burns quickly and fades. It is the kind that refines him over time. Through this experience, he learns that love is not a conquest or a fleeting spark of emotion. It is a sacred mirror that reveals who he truly is. He discovers that to love genuinely is to grow, to confront himself, and to evolve beyond ego. Love teaches him the language of truth, patience, and balance. It breaks his pride but strengthens his soul. It teaches him that being strong is not about being unshaken, but about being brave enough to remain open when everything in him wants to close. In this depth of feeling, he finds peace. He no longer seeks to be admired for what he can control. He finds fulfillment in what he can understand and nurture. The woman he loves becomes both his reflection and his teacher, showing him how to love not through possession but through presence. Through her, he learns compassion. Through her, he learns stillness. And through her, he learns that the most powerful form of love is one that liberates rather than confines. He realizes that real love does not demand perfection. It invites two imperfect souls to walk the path of growth together, hand in hand, learning, forgiving, and becoming. Authentic love becomes his awakening. It transforms his silence into meaning, his fear into wisdom, and his passion into purpose. It grounds him in humility, yet elevates him beyond his limitations. He understands that love is not an escape from reality, but the deepest way to embrace it. In the end, love is not about finding another person to complete him. It is about recognizing the divine reflection that guides him toward completeness within himself. When a man feels authentic love, he does not just experience emotion, he experiences evolution. It is the meeting of two souls that remind each other who they were always meant to be. And through that sacred recognition, he learns that love is not only what connects two hearts, it is what awakens the soul to its highest truth.